Howard Lovecraft didn't just leave behind a literary legacy. He created an entire universe where madness, fear of the unknown, and cosmic helplessness became the foundation for countless stories. Today, Lovecraft has become a full-fledged tag on Steam. From horror games and shooters to city builders and visual novels, his influence has spread everywhere. In this video, I'll be covering 20 new and fascinating games that carry the spirit of the old ones. I'll start with Stygian, Outer Gods. Here, you're thrown into a fractured reality, a city lost in time and space. Unlike the previous game in the series, which leaned into classic turn-based RPG mechanics, this new entry shifts focus to first-person survival and exploration, all while preserving the core philosophy of a Lovecraftian world. Gameplay revolves around scavenging for supplies and clinging to your sanity. Contact with otherworldly forces chips away at your mind. The lower your sanity, the more distorted the world becomes. Monsters shift in form, sounds twist into chaos, enemies seem to read your every move, and conversations with NPCs turn into gibberish. Ammo is scarce, weapons break often, and enemies kill fast. The game just launched in early access, but it already shows a lot of promise. Gloomwood. This is an immersive sim set in a Victorian nightmare, where you play as a doctor trapped in a cursed city filled with shadows and monsters. No tutorials, no hand-holding. You're thrown into a hostile world, and how you survive is entirely up to you. Every part of the environment contributes to the atmosphere. You can peek through keyholes, crack doors open slowly, and disable light sources to stay hidden. The game is non-linear, with every corner hiding alternate paths, secret stashes, and cryptic clues about what's really going on. It's stealthy, eerie, and deeply immersive. Lust from Beyond. This is a first-person atmospheric horror game and a sequel to its predecessor. The protagonist, an antiquarian, begins to experience visions of a supernatural world filled with pain and debauchery. In his attempt to understand what's happening to him and find a cure, he becomes entangled in an ancient and secretive cult that worships a god of lust from another realm. The game draws clear inspiration from the works of Lovecraft and Geiger, especially in the design of certain locations. Roughly half of the gameplay focuses on exploration and solving puzzles in a walking simulator style. As the story progresses, the protagonist eventually gains access to firearms, adding more action to the otherwise slow-paced first-person gameplay. The strongest aspect of the game is its narrative. The story is genuinely engaging and offers multiple endings depending on the player's choices. Dredge. You start the game as a shipwrecked fisherman. The mayor of a nearby town offers you a small boat and a deal. Work off your debt by fishing and handing over part of the profits. The fishing mechanic is simple: sail to key locations, play a minigame, and try to efficiently organize your catch in the inventory. At first, Dredge feels minimalistic and relaxing, with its clean art style and tranquil music. But everything changes when night falls. Your only light is a dim lantern on the boat, and darkness slowly eats away at your sanity. Unseen horrors rise from the depths. If you stray too far from the coast, whether chasing profit or out of curiosity, things get ugly. This is when Dredge shows its true face, and the fisherman can quickly become the prey. With each quest, the game leans harder into Lovecraftian themes, and the peaceful ocean becomes something ancient and hostile. Blood West. At first glance, it's a horror western, but the deeper you go, the more Lovecraftian madness seeps through. You play as a cursed gunslinger, brought back from the dead by a mysterious force to cleanse the land of evil. The wastelands are crawling not just with cultists and cannibals, but with twisted, unnameable horrors. Gameplay blends immersive sim mechanics with stealth, action, and survival horror. Every weapon feels hefty. Every bullet matters. Noise is your enemy, as is light. Enemies are smart and aggressive. They can stalk you, smell your blood, and react to every sound. Character progression is tied to strange relics and perks that alter how you play, with a roguelike twist that keeps things unpredictable. It's brutal, eerie, and constantly on edge, like staring into a dusty mirror and waiting for it to blink first. Darkest Dungeon 2. This series doesn't feature direct references to Lovecraft, but the influence is so pervasive it's impossible not to include it. The story follows a band of heroes who dive into perilous dungeons in search of fortune. But to make it out alive, you'll need to master each character's skills, identify enemy weaknesses, and care not only for the group's physical well-being, but their sanity as well. If one party member loses their mind, the entire team suffers. And no matter how brave your heroes seem, a single glimpse into the true face of cosmic horror is enough to send their souls spiraling into darkness. Darkest Dungeon can be criticized for repetitive gameplay and its sometimes punishing difficulty, but beyond that, it remains a brilliant and brutally immersive experience. Worshippers of Cthulhu. A truly unusual city-building simulator where you take on the role of a high priest of a cult determined to awaken the great Cthulhu. Inspired by Lovecraft's works, the game blends traditional strategy mechanics with a dark and oppressive atmosphere. Your journey begins with a shipwreck on a mysterious island. You and a handful of followers establish a settlement, gathering resources, constructing buildings, and meeting the needs of your growing cult. But what sets this game apart is the requirement to perform occult rituals, manage the cult's fanaticism, and prepare for the arrival of an ancient god. Every decision pulls you deeper into madness and closer to awakening something that should never have been disturbed. Scorn. This isn't just a game. It's an art installation brought to life, immersing you without words, HUD, or obvious objectives. Just you, a decaying body, and a biomechanical labyrinth that pulses and breathes. Something else is here, and it knows you're inside. The gameplay is a surreal blend of puzzle solving, exploration, and light combat. It's not about how you fight, but how you interact with the world. Switches made of flesh, doors powered by organic energy, weapons fused directly into your body. There's no dialogue, no exposition. You exist here as a part of this grotesque ecosystem, and it's up to you to interpret what's happening. Not for everyone, but for those seeking something truly alien, Scorn offers an unforgettable descent into a world of beautifully crafted horror. Call of the Sea. Set in the 1930s, the story follows a woman who journeys to a remote island in search of her husband's missing expedition. The gameplay focuses on exploration and puzzle solving that grows increasingly bizarre the deeper you go. Inverted symbols, forgotten machinery, and cryptic rituals lie hidden throughout the island. The horror doesn't come from monsters, but from the growing awareness and change within the protagonist. As she unravels ancient secrets and awakens something long dormant, her transformation, both literal and metaphorical, becomes inevitable. The ending leaves logic behind, and your choices decide whether she remains human or something else entirely. ZEPHON. Set in a far future where humanity clings to survival amidst the ruins of a once great civilization, this isn't your typical post-apocalypse. The world is soaked in techno-Lovecraftian horror. Biomechanical monstrosities roam the earth, technology fuses with madness, and ancient forces stir beneath the surface. This is a 4X strategy game where you build your base, research technologies, lead armies, and face threats beyond comprehension. Some enemies infect the minds of your troops, shatter morale, or warp the very fabric of reality. Unique mechanics let you manage terror levels, build defenses against incorporeal beings, and engage diplomatically with factions already consumed by the void. It's a haunting fusion of sci-fi strategy and existential dread. SIGNALIS, a bleak pixel art survival horror game inspired by the classics of the genre but filtered through a lens of philosophical sci-fi and psychological unease. You play as a replica, a humanoid android who awakens in a ruined world to fulfill a long-forgotten promise. But what is the promise, and who was it made to? That's something you'll need to uncover. The gameplay evokes the spirit of Silent Hill and Resident Evil, with tight inventory management, eerie exploration, and cryptic storytelling. But it's not about shooting your way through monsters. It's a journey through memory, loss, and the fragile boundary between dreams and reality. Through letters, visions, and symbolic imagery, much of it echoing Lovecraftian themes, SIGNALIS becomes a haunting meditation on love, death, and the endless cycle of grief. Sherlock Holmes, The Awakened. The original version of this game was released back in 2008 and told the story of a secret cult and a wave of disappearances. One of the central themes is the clash between logic and the supernatural. In the game, a young Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson investigate a string of mysterious disappearances in London. Their search leads them to a hidden cult with plans to awaken an ancient god. As Holmes gets closer to the truth, he begins to experience disturbing visions and nightmares. It's a compelling and at times eerie blend of classic British detective work and Lovecraft's Call of Cthulhu. The remake preserves the original spirit but refines the execution, offering a more polished and cohesive experience. An experiment that still works beautifully today. Still Wakes the Deep. At its core, this game delivers a strong, if somewhat straightforward, horror story reminiscent of The Thing. You play as an electrician working on an oil rig in the middle of the North Sea. Everything goes to hell when the drill uncovers something ancient, something that should have stayed buried. The rig begins to fall apart, and most of the crew turn into grotesque heaps of flesh. Even worse, some of them remain alive and aware. The creature's presence manipulates the mind, dragging up the worst memories of its victims. And the protagonist himself isn't immune. He slowly succumbs to the alien influence. What begins as a sci-fi survival story ends as something far more sinister and existential. The Sinking City. You play as a detective arriving in a mysterious, half-submerged city where the locals have long since lost their minds. The protagonist isn't exactly sane either. He previously survived a trip through the Bermuda Triangle, and his grip on reality hasn't been the same since. His goal is to uncover the city's secrets and solve the mystery of his own past. The detective's paranormal abilities allow him to see into the past and traverse different realities. The game combines action-adventure mechanics with open-world detective gameplay. You'll explore freely, collect clues, and make decisions that can dramatically impact other characters. At the heart of it all lies a descent into madness, both the city's and your own. Alone in the Dark. Last year's remake of Alone in the Dark did justice to the original while weaving in much stronger Lovecraftian themes. The story follows Emily Hartwood, who hires a private investigator to help her rescue her uncle from a secluded psychiatric hospital. You can play as either character, exploring two overlapping worlds, a real-world mansion and a realm of nightmarish memories. As the curse spreads, it begins pulling other townspeople into a spiral of mystical madness. While the original game was more of a zombie tale, the remake focuses heavily on the psychological toll of supernatural forces and the fragile minds of those who encounter them. Forgive Me, Father. Despite the sheer number of Lovecraft-inspired games, few offer pure FPS action soaked in madness. Thankfully, the Polish studio Bite Barrel delivered just that. The story begins with the protagonist arriving in a strange town to visit a relative. From the moment you arrive, things spiral out of control. The townsfolk have vanished, and the streets are crawling with monsters and cultists. Luckily, your arsenal is packed with guns and eldritch powers. Sure, the game isn't without flaws. The difficulty spikes hard, and the save point spacing might drive you mad in the bad way. But at its core, Forgive Me, Father is a solid boomer shooter in the spirit of classic Doom, but drenched in cosmic horror and hallucinatory visuals. Morbid, The Seven Acolytes, an isometric Souls-like action game soaked in rot and despair. You play as the last of the Strivers of Dibram, chosen to liberate the cursed kingdom of Morbid from the grip of eldritch horrors, each one possessed by parasitic gods from beyond. The gameplay draws inspiration from Dark Souls and Bloodborne, but trades the third-person view for a grim isometric perspective. Character growth is tied to ritual stones, and your arsenal ranges from mangled blades to rare, ammo-limited firearms. There's even a madness system. Expect visions, bloody hallucinations, and the slow unraveling of your mind. Morbid is harsh, grim, and unforgiving, perfect for those who crave decay, hopelessness, and ancient gods dripping with malice. Dreams in the Witch House. Walter, a young university student, rents a room in a house with a dark past. While working on his theory linking math and magic, he starts having disturbing dreams. This is a hybrid of point-and-click adventure, RPG, and survival sim. You guide Walter's daily life, managing his health, sanity, and time. Explore an open town, study mysterious items, and slip between dreams and reality. What you learn and when shapes the story. Events unfold differently based on your mental state, and you won't see everything in one playthrough. In fact, you probably won't make it to a happy ending at all. First Date. Let's end on something lighter, a parody dating sim that's oddly perfect. Our main character is determined to kiss all the eldritch gods. After dabbling in occult rituals and forbidden texts, he finally summons a tentacled cutie with some serious jealousy issues. Gameplay-wise, it's a classic visual novel. Perform blood-soaked rituals, win her over with flattery, and try not to doom the world in the process. Despite the cute anime aesthetic, the game sneaks in genuine horror and existential dread, but never takes itself too seriously. It's a cosmic horror rom-com with charming characters, fun writing, and yes, multiple apocalyptic endings. Cosmic horror doesn't need jump scares. It grows inside you slowly through atmosphere, sound, and things left unsaid. These games won't always scare you, but they will unsettle you. That's the true power of Lovecraftian horror. It doesn't scream, it whispers, and sometimes it goes so silent you start screaming for it. Oh, and by the way, most of these are on sale on Steam right now, just in case you're brave enough to take the plunge. The Image Game Channel was with you. Have a nice day.